Hi, this is Don Cowboy Biker Adventures. Today I have for you a complete tour of Sedona. This is a tour I took with Scenic Sedona Tours, and they let me film the whole 5-hour tour. Our tour guide is Mr. Clay, and he will be narrating the whole tour with fun facts about Sedona and also about the history of Sedona. This will be part 3 of several parts to get the whole tour in, and I'll pick up here where I left off on part 2. If you ever wanted to see Sedona in its entirety, this is your chance. This tour normally costs about $126, and in my case, senior cost was $108, and it's well worth it. But here you can see everything I saw. So let's get started with part 3. I think you're going to like it.
And you know, all the red rocks have all been renamed. The names we use today are different than the ones the natives used. They were telling their story, and you know, they would have detailed descriptions, names behind just about every nook and cranny, every pillar, every spire. Told a part of the story, and straight ahead of us is the resting maiden, which I call bed rest rock because it looks a lot like my wife Donna when she was on bed rest. You can see she's like laying back, she's comfortable, big belly, belly's in full. She's got the little bell I gave her, just in case she needs more spring rolls. Which is what she was craving during her pregnancy. Thai food, spring rolls. Yeah, my son was born not a picky eater, but won't touch the stuff. We'll be on the other side of the resting maiden later today when I take you to the #1 destination for catching our beautiful sunsets.
You do know if men gave birth, we would died off thousands of years ago, right?
What side of... Detailed, very detailed names and stories behind the red rocks. Most of the names I know are common names, except for possibly this mountain in front of us, which is the only true mountain in this area by definition. It was formed by volcanoes, formed by volcanic and tectonic shifts moving. It's called the Kokopelli, and what I think is interesting about the Kokopelli, it's the figure with the flute that's used in a lot of Native American artwork. It's the figure with the flute or the bong. Actually, it's neither. It's you can actually see there's a Kokopelli right here. Where is it? Right to our right. There's the figure of the Kokopelli. Behind it, the White Mountain, pure basalt, goes by the old name. It was never renamed. It's still Kokopelli, and Kokopelli is their intergalactic traveler. It's their spaceman. That's not a bong. That's not a flute. It's an instrument for time travel and space travel, according to the folkloric legend. But a sign of fertility, abundance, joy, and happiness. I like to point it out as something you'll pass on your way into Sedona. Kokopelli Mountains. Here to our right. So I mentioned distillers. Very attracted to this area. One in particular was here before he was before earning all the notoriety and becoming the famous, infamous, ruthless gangster we know him as Al Capone. Was here in northern Arizona when he was a young man, getting buddy anywhere he thought he could make a buck. He built a hotel and brothel about 40 miles from here on the Verde River. And the foundation for this hotel was poured around natural hot springs, so he had hot tubs inside. Probably a classy touch. Today it's dispersed camping. It's called Child's Hot Springs. And if you're willing to hike a mile and ford the Verde River, you can actually stay overnight. You can actually pull catfish out of the Verde River from the comfort of Al Capone's hot tubs. How many people can say they've done that? Oh, just me. And it's also on the same road system as Fossil Creek. If you do a Google image search for Fossil Creek, Arizona, you'll be astounded at the 1.5 miles of waterfalls and crystalline, clear water that is spring water, but comes out at about 78 degrees. Perfect water temperature for a nice day of recreation. And super tall, beautiful waterfalls, something you'd probably expect to see in Hawaii. Not so much in the middle of our desert. But Arizona does boast more contrast than any other state in the U.S. More contrast in different biomes and elevation changes. You can kind of see that here. So you have along Oak Creek, which is flowing to our left, 365 days a year. And along the riparian area, it's a broadleaf tree forest. And then just feet away, typical high Sonoran desert. Pinyon pine, juniper, scrub oak, some jack pine. And then above us, outside of Flagstaff, it's another biome. It's evergreen. It's a coniferous forest. Largest ponderosa pine forest in the world, actually. Huge elevation changes.
What is the elevation here?
Here in Sedona, we're above 4,000 feet. Oh, Schnebley. So if anyone is still here through the weekend, the next flamenco show is Sunday, 5:30, in front of the historic Mexican restaurant there, outside in the beautiful Spanish courtyard. You're all invited. It's open to the public with consumption. Get there early so you get a seat, because the seats fill up fast. So you'll see Snoopy rock again. 2 hour right, 3 o'clock. How is everyone's appetite? Am I distorting? How's the volume back there? Is it all right? Yeah. How's everyone's appetite?
I'm good.
I'm flexible. Should we do lunch next, or should we do one more stop before lunch?
I'll go one more stop.
One more stop.
Yeah.
One more stop? That sounds unanimous to me. Okay.
That was quick.
A little drive-through of Uptown. Sedona doesn't have a downtown. What we have is called Uptown, and it's what I consider the Strip. It's going to be a lot of shops, restaurants, hotels with views over Oak Creek Canyon.
There's a good view of Snoopy's Rock.
Beautiful views from Uptown. So Heinrich Schormann had planted tons and tons of grapes. Here in Uptown is actually where you kind of get some of first Prohibition history, Americana history. Distillers in this area competed with one another. Eventually, a feud brewed, and it led to some violence that disrupted this community. And so a few of the community members, including our very own Sedona Schnebley, were some of the first people. Sedona was talking to the other wives, banding together, and organizing against the production of ethanol in this area. And thanks to their efforts, or because of their efforts, Arizona was the first state to put into place the Prohibition. This is 7 or 8 years before the national Prohibition went through Congress. And then Heinrich Schormann actually was able to continue planting vines and making wine because he received a pardon by the governor of Arizona up in Flagstaff, which would have been the capital in those days. So he continued. But 7, 8 years later, the national prohibition swept through, and when that happened, anyone still making ethanol or making wine basically became an outlaw. Became an outlaw overnight. Well, Heinrich Schormann at that point moved his family to California, where they made wine under the church, made sacramental wine for the church, and later established one of the very first wine colleges in California. A lot of that family's efforts led to California becoming the wine mecca it is today. And actually, during the Prohibition, all the vines in Arizona dried up. There was no winemaking. In the last 50 years, it's all been restarted. Some descendants of Heinrich Schormann returned, followed family history back to Arizona to restart winemaking here. And they are a married couple. They grow grapes in southern Arizona as well as up here. A married couple. They're both winemakers. They both have their own labels. She likes a semi-sweet and gives her wines flirty female names, and her husband is known for some of the deepest reds and a full-bodied Spanish-style wine. They have a tasting room here in the Sinagua Plaza to our right on the second floor. It's called Winery 1912. Arizona history. 1912 was the year Arizona became a state. The Wayside Bible Chapel, this church here to our left, is kind of where all those conversations were happening. It was very divisive. But that's where the Schormanns and other winemakers and distillers attended church. So did the Jordans, so did the Schneeblis. So very heated conversations prior to the Prohibition. They were all worshiping at the same parish. Arizona wine's all been restarted in the last 50 years. So I point out the stretch of road. This road takes you up Oak Creek Canyon. It's a beautiful scenic drive with a lot of switchbacks. It's actually the most drastic elevation change in the continental U.S. The stretch of road between Sedona and Flagstaff, you'll scale over 2,200 feet before you get to the top of the Mogollon Rim. That's second only to Hawaii, where they measure the mount at the bottom of the ocean.
That's the only road to Flagstaff?
It's not the only road, but it's probably the fastest from Sedona. Otherwise, you have to go kind of cut out of the way and take the I-17 north.
Oh, that's right. I-17.
So there are a few tasting rooms in Uptown too. Arizona wine is small production, but some of the cleanest wine in the world, because since it's small production, mostly it's like 99% hand-picked grapes. And in the case of hand-picked grapes, winemakers don't have to use as many additives like in larger productions, where they have to make sure that their grape juice is sterilized and becomes a finished product they can sell. Some of the cleanest wine in the world is produced here in Arizona, and the only place to find it is, you guessed it, right here in Arizona. It's not scaled to distribution out of state. This is all metered parking, all through the strip here. Parking on a meter. But if you take a right and head down Jordan Road like you're heading to the Sedona Heritage Museum, our next stop, you'll find parking lots with that offer free parking on the left and right side of the street. And Uptown is after this stop where I'll set you free for lunch. If you have a hankering, talk to me. I may be able to point you in the right direction. There's a lot of dining options up here. So at the end of this road, there's an old farmhouse, ranch house property, which is now the Sedona Archive for all historical documents, and a museum established here, a historical museum, where in the next 40-45 minutes you'll glean a lot of the rich history of Sedona. I mentioned, pioneers, early settlers, then mingled with Hollywood and celebrities in the 30s and 40s when they came through Arizona to shoot the old westerns. So I'm going to give you about 40-45 minutes before I take you to lunch. So every different structure, every building is a different exhibit. So you'll want to explore, walk around, take a little stroll, and you'll be taking a self-guided auxiliary tour, or audible tour with your phone's camera. You'll be able to scan the QR codes at each exhibit, and it'll patch you to YouTube for the audio, so you can learn about each exhibit here at the Sedona Heritage Museum. I'm going to check everyone in. You see the McDonald's arches kind of over to the right, 2 o'clock? The restrooms have their own building just beyond the arches in the corner there. You should see them. Yeah. This is the main building. You don't have to start your auxiliary tour here. I'm going to go in and get us all checked in. Ordinarily, I have stickers that you'll wear on your shirts, but they have to print me some more. So you're all going to have to pay the $10 admittance fee. Just kidding. I got it. Bear with me. I'll check you in. It's going to be free today. It's paid for by the company. I don't really like the parking situation here. Let's see what I can do. Once I get parked, I'll look at my watch and see what time is going to be a good time. Just going to meet back here at the vehicle. Don't fault me for using this time to go get a coffee refill. You can find me
This is where I'm going to end part 3, and this is exactly where I'll pick up on part 4. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the adventure. So until next time, have a good one.